appreciate you being here. I'm still dealing with the western part of the state, and as I was telling Ron, I was on the call with North Carolina Emergency Management and trying to get some resources up there. Still a lot needed, so. All right, just a few more minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and get our meeting started to order, and again, thank you all for being here. Everyone's got their packet. We'll get started. First item is any adjustments to tonight's agenda.
Yes. You go first.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to add a consideration for appointment to Planning and Zoning Board vacancy.
It'll be a meet and greet for you all today. The appointment will go on Thursday's calendar, if that's all right with you. Andrew is out making copies of the hard application. We do have an applicant here before so that you all can meet him and ask any questions.
Anything else? Anything else, Ron? Ron, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. If nothing else, and everyone agrees to that addition, is there a motion to approve our agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is general business, and we'll start with council conversations. Start with Mr. Now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, in the light of everything that's been going on, I just want to thank all the organizations, all the people, everybody that's been working towards taking care of our neighbors in Western North Carolina and Tennessee. I see that we got another storm coming up, looks like the East Coast again, so let's keep our friends in Florida and Georgia and South Carolina in our prayers and thoughts, and hopefully we'll get through this one. As a first responder from 9/11, it was a terrible day, and just as terrible as what happened up in Asheville and the surrounding communities. But it's hard to believe, but believe it or not, we'll build back, and hopefully we'll build back and it'll be better. But right now, it's just a tough pill to swallow, and it's hard to believe, but it can be done. I'm a witness to that. The other thing I have concerning, not that, but Doug sent an email out this afternoon on the follow-up. So I kind of would like to discuss that because I do not like the way the Iredell County Parks and Recreation is charging people to use our greenway. And if they continue, I would like to have our attorney send them a letter of cease and desist and whatever else, other means we have to put a stop to that. So I guess our town manager can follow up on what he thinks.
You want me to speak to it now?
Yeah, that's fine.
I know the mayor has reached out to the chair of the county commissioners, basically asking for a comment, and I certainly do not disagree with you, Councilman. However, I do think before we get the town attorney involved, we allow the mayor to speak with the chair lady and see if they can come up with an acknowledgement. One thing I will say, while it's not an excuse, it's a fact, that person is new to the role, and as we all know and hear from constituents and other members, there seems to be some things being said that's not appropriate for good relationships, and that's not the new person, that's the existing, some of the existing personnel there. But I do recommend the appropriate course is to see what type response the mayor gets and try to let that work its way out. If that's not successful, then we certainly can have our attorney to send them correspondence as they're not responding to me, neither the Parks and Rec director nor the county manager.
The only thing they seem to though, understand is our attorney getting hold of them, because common sense and courtesy don't seem to exist with them.
What I would say, Mr. Now, as Mr. Wyatt said, I did share the sentiment of kind of what Mr. Wyatt shared with us, really around the courtesy to have a conversation. And so I'd like for us to at least hear back from the county officials on their response to it and see if that's either different and or we need to take further action. But I would, as Mr. Wyatt said, let's try to work the strategy here around giving them an opportunity to respond. So that's, and again, I sent that this afternoon after Mr. Wyatt shared with us.
We certainly can go Thursday if there's not been a response. 3 days is not going to make a difference, I wouldn't think. And again, I'm not disagreeing with you, please don't take it that way. But I also think if we give it a few days and just see if it can't be resolved. If not, then by all means.
Yeah.
But, I'll give in, but can I just ask, how has that worked out for us in the past?
Well, again, I don't think we've necessarily,
Well,
I don't know that we've had this situation, and I don't know, I've not sent anything directly to the chairwoman, asking for this response.
Okay, because their event is on Friday.
Understood. Yep.
They will not be using our amenity on Friday because we're going to be doing maintenance.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you, have you had contact with the chairman, or going to have contact with Melissa?
I sent her a note, that's what I sent the information to today. Okay. Mr. Jarodzinski?
Well, in light of the disaster in the mountains, as kind of been referenced, I'd just like to thank the Public Works Department and their speedy response to assessing the town here before heading off earlier this week to help another fellowing town in Rutherfordton in Rutherford County. The town's response, the citizens and the organizations and churches in the town has just been immense for supplies drives. I've seen many of the town employees drop off supplies at various locations and also assist in multiple ways of getting those deliveries to the western parts of the state that have gone through this disaster. The Troutman Fire Department has just been immense and welcoming to being a location centralized for those drop-offs, as well as the Troutman Baptist Church, and I believe their youth pastor, Matthew Murdoch, has organized with the Baptist Men on a Mission and taken a group of men up there and helped with the relief efforts and search and rescue and survival efforts. So it's just been an immense outpouring from this town and overwhelmingly full of joy in the response that the citizens have had, and very proud to call this home.
Great. Anything else? Shane?
Well, I certainly concur with fellow council members, what they've said concerning the devastation up in the western part of the state. I also concur with Councilman Now concern that hopefully Thursday night things will be addressed on that in a professional manner. It should always be the case, but we'll see. Even though I was not able to actively be involved, I tried to help out through monetary donations with the devastation, like many other people, with money and supplies. And as Eddie said a while ago, you just can't imagine, what those people must be going through. And the the fact that it's going to be getting cold up there over the next few nights, some of these people, have nowhere to really turn to or go and so forth, and others have not even been located yet that are still missing, according to their relatives and so forth. So, it's something just all you can do is just shake your head and we will rebuild. The folks up there will. They're a hardy group. The mountain folks are, and even those that have moved from the flat up there, they've learned the tradition, and they will, and they're out helping themselves as well as other people coming in from the outside community and helping, and that's good, working side by side. And, not asking for a handout, but for a hand up, and I can respect that all day long. And as again, say, thoughts and prayers with those folks. The thing that any of us can do is as Nick just said, I've been following Facebook. Normally I don't look at social media, but kind of been following this particular topic, and I'm amazed and grateful for the community in large Iredell County for how they have stepped up and continue to step up, and for Nick's involvement with the Rural Town, what they have accomplished. Reading that article this afternoon, free news is just all I had. Of course, kept up with a little bit on social media, but then seeing the article just really amazed me, and very grateful for what's going on in the community, and very thankful.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Along the same lines as everyone else, I'm a Sunday school teacher at my church, and our topic yesterday just happened to be teamwork. And so one of the things I brought up with my students, it was teenagers, was working together as a team, and how sometimes you get more done working together as a team. And in a time when we have in this election, you see so much division. It's good to see all this teamwork going on right now with everyone going up to Western North Carolina to help out with all the different various teams. I work for the state of North Carolina, so we have a leadership team meeting every morning and every afternoon, and we're coordinating a lot of teams to get up there. Right now, they're in a search and rescue mode, trying, making sure. I don't want to say the obvious, but and the next phase of it will be, making sure people get the technology back and things like that, and just watching all these various teams throughout the state work. It's just good to see so many people working together, because it is going to take everybody working together to get them back, and that never be the same. Hopefully, like Nick or whoever said, it'll be better, when they do build back. So we're just continuing to keep everyone in our prayers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Archer?
Yeah, that's, I'm very proud to see a lot of the local efforts in the response. Don't want to repeat anybody, but I think, I was proud to hear that we had a team from our public works go up there, and I think it showed just how exceptional our people are here, and the team that we've built here in Troutman. But not only that, the local efforts of the people that have been displaced that are here, the organization, and being able to not only focus on what's going on out west, but the people that are here that are also in need, has just been very impressive. But I do only have one question, just because I hadn't been able to drive by today, but have we been able to address the tree in the dog park?
Not yet. Well, let me rephrase it. It has not been removed. We have addressed it. We're waiting on the contractor to get the right equipment to come and address it.
Sure. Thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Again, not to repeat anything that's been said, but again, appreciate all the involvement of all of our citizens and our staff for what they're doing to support our citizens, our neighbors in the western part of the state. It's not complete yet, so I know a lot of times after a few days, people assume it's passed, and it's not. And so still a lot of support needed, and so where folks can continue to support, either with actual boots on the ground or funding or supplies. Again, I think we owe it. We never know when we're going to be in that situation. And we would hope our neighbors would come and support us as well. And so we'll keep doing that and pray that this next storm, you know, the folks down in the south that Mr. Now mentioned in Florida are safe over the next few days as well. We're still in the season. It's a long hurricane season. We got to November 30th. People don't realize how long this season is, and it can take a toll on folks. And so, again, what we can do to support them, again, we never know when we're going to be in harm's way as well. So, again, thank you for what you're doing, and pray everyone remains safe. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And on the main topic of the devastation that has hit our neighbors to the west, I would like to state that the town, depending on all the work done, most of our citizens, several, including the police chief, lost power for a few days while they were attending to priority areas. It took them a few days to get the street clear on Rumpel and the power going again. So on one hand, I would like to and have said many thanks to the good Lord above that we were not more severely impacted. On the other hand, the total damage, tree removals that we've already had some done, and the additional work looks like it may impact our budget somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $700,000. And as I have expressed through you all and to lawmakers, we were the first county east of all those counties in western North Carolina that was not designated as a disaster area. It's my understanding there has been conversations from Mecklenburg, Iredell, and Yadkin to be added to those because the municipalities had expenses not counting just the residents within their communities. So we're hopeful that that will come to be, that we get designated in those areas so that these funds can be replaced. Some of our damages and cost can be postponed, but the majority of them cannot. And that's just something that was not budgeted for. I had one citizen ask me sincerely, do y'all not put budget money in there for that? And I'm like, how do you budget for a disaster? No, we don't. That's what our reserves are for. Moneybags told me we didn't have a lot of reserves for that, as we call our finance director. But we can pay, it's just gonna hurt real bad, and we'll have to do the budget amendments if that FEMA money is not available to us. That being said, the town of Troutman had some opportunities to help in the relief efforts in the mountains over the past week. Town of Troutman was able to send a crew of 4+ Councilman Jarozinski joined us later in the day to the town of Rutherfordton, and they call it Ruffton, but I did all the syllables, on Wednesday, October 2nd. I thought it was Tuesday, but whatever day it was, we went. We took a skid steer, Kubota UTV, chainsaws, hand tools. We left here at 6 a.m. and arrived there at 8 a.m. And we went to a neighborhood that was hit hard by wind and uprooted trees, as a lot of trees were still on power lines. A few houses were completely destroyed because the trees had centered them or hit them on the end. Their main goal for us that day was to clean up as much of the brush and trees as possible along the road so that the rest of the citizens could come and go. Most of the roads were passable to an extent, but they were littered with trees and down lines. We worked all day there, and it was nice to see that our town was wanting to help those neighbors that needed our assistance. One thing I'd like to caveat there from a minute, a lot of folks have volunteered to help, and then you hear comments of, well, I expected to kind of do something different. And the analogy I used on the radio and that I reminded our people that was up there that day, while we have expectations of how we would like to help people, if we truly mean what we say, for example, a lady in church is going to have a major surgery, most all of us in this room, I think, would go up to her and say, hey, I'm sincere now, if you need anything, let me know. Well, if she says clean my toilet, how many thought that that's what she was going to need help with? But if she's having surgery and that's what helps her know that that's peace of mind and she's going to live a little bit better quality of life, then that's the job we volunteered to do. So while we don't always get to do what we thought they might use us for, a lot of these people, whether it be local law enforcement, firemen, other government employees, have lost family members' lives and or their own homes. So it's unfair to expect them to do the normal day-to-day job when we can go in and help them while they are beginning the healing and rebuilding process. On Friday, we had another opportunity to help with relief efforts in the mountains. Troutman Baptist Church was sending a group up to Spruce Pine area to help them out. I volunteered or voluntold Austin Wall to go up with some town equipment. They left Friday morning at 6 a.m. and headed to the church in Spruce Pine. Some of the main roads up there were washed out, and it took a lot longer to get there than it normally would. Once they arrived at Grassy Creek Baptist Church in Spruce Pine, they got assigned their first task. It was to go and help a small community called Penland, North Carolina, and the objective there was to locate, rescue, and check on the community as they could. It was essential that they had four-wheelers and UTVs because most of the roads were otherwise impassable. They used chainsaws and other equipment to open up these creeks and make paths so that residents who lived, excuse me, that were blocked off could get in and out afterwards if they needed to by walking. The roads were in very bad shape, had many washouts, and all the power lines were down in the area. They were able to cut trees out of drives and roads and get some citizens untrapped, others because of the trees and the debris. The community was safe in that area, and they were able to assist getting them much needed food and water. After that, some of the group went and worked at the church as it became a distribution site for water, food, medicines, grills, toiletries, and other items. People came with deliveries all day, dropping off supplies. Some in the group stayed at the church, were offloading and organizing the supplies as well as loading supplies to go to people in need. The rest of the group went to the community of Micaville, or I think it's Micaville, but M-I-C-A-V-I-L-L-E. They were hit pretty hard, and no one had been able to check on them yet. The community was beside a creek about the size of Third Creek here in Iredell County, if that gives you a context. The road was impassable by vehicles and just barely passable by the four-wheelers or UTVs that went. The creek rose more than 25 feet in the height of the storm. It looked like a bomb had hit the area with debris, vehicles, houses, and other things tossed and turned around and were now along the creek sides as they floated down. It washed a good portion of the road away. The water and sewer mains were laying everywhere, so they had no water and sewer lines to continue. They were able to make contacts with many people, take them food, water, and supplies that were absolutely a necessity by the time they got them to them. After that, they went and worked in the church the rest of the day until around 10 p.m., offloading supplies that were beginning to stream in. The next morning, they cooked breakfast for Duke Energy, other volunteers, and locals. They began offloading and organizing supplies. They went along a creek that was hit hard at the end of the road, and an apartment complex had nearly 200 people living there. They had no power, water, or food. The cars that were there were destroyed by the floods. They took multiple pallets of water, truckloads of food, medicines, and toiletries to these people. They also took multiple grills so that people could cook. The folks will be without power and water for a very long time as they also had water and sewer lines that were strung out and broken across the creek. The rest of the day they spent in the communities doing wellness checks as well as chainsaw work. They had the opportunity to kill 4 hogs, and I realize that kind of sounds odd with everything else, but the owner couldn't keep the hogs in the pen lot area, and he asked that they be killed. They were, and they were brought back to Statesville for proper meat processing so that it could be used for the folks up in that community. That sounds kind of bad at one point, that you're killing animals for food, but me being from Wilkes County, I can tell you a lot of these mountain folks, I have a saying that the government's gonna mess around and find out if they keep poking around in some of them holes and them hills, because they're just not accustomed to the rules that other people want them to follow. But they're a pride people, and they are very much appreciative at what everybody on the outside is trying to do to help them. And I appreciate us having the opportunity of sending personnel to multiple locations. The chief has offered assistance to many law enforcement agencies and may be sending somebody as the time changes. I will also take a point of personal favor. My son has been guarding a distribution site, and that sounds terrible, but the distribution sites have been raided and robbed by a lot of these folks in these communities, and they're now having to have law enforcement security around them just to make sure that people are not coming and taking the supplies without being distributed properly. That's all I have on that topic. One thing I would like to also mention, for any of you that have drove out Morrison Farm, the Thursday afternoon before the storm hit real good is when our contracted crew finally got a trail. For you all that remember our 5.5 acres on Morrison Farm Road that has huge power lines, and talking with Emily, it had long been a goal as if we had money in the budget to try to make a walking trail out there so that our citizens that live in that, near that community, can walk there without having to drive all the way here to town. We had very little washout due to the storm, but we did have a couple places. A lot of citizens out there seem to be very excited that this walking trail has been built. It is not and has not been opened for public use, meaning we are done with it. Because of the storm, we do know that there's a couple repair areas, but more importantly, because the site was illegally used as a dump site prior to it being donated to us, and even afterwards, there's a lot of debris on that site that we have to use a Harley rake to go and tend to. Because of the storm and our priorities here and trying to get our regular amenities up to speed, we have not been able to go out there. The contractor that has built that for us is of course now needed in western North Carolina, not certain when they will return. But we just want you all to know, as a council and our citizens that are paying attention, we are well aware that the site is a little bit of an eyesore, but we are working on it as we can with proper equipment and contracted services. We just have to prioritize stuff, and hopefully by springtime we will say that it's officially open. But this is just the first phase in getting a walking trail done. I just think some of the citizens are a little impatient and want it to already be officially opened. We're not sending the police out there to tell people they can't walk, but because of the washout areas and other debris, we do not feel comfortable in opening it up and saying it's ready for public use. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Again, appreciate all the work that the staff did, again, in support of those folks out there. And again, as was mentioned, there's a lot of organizations that have pitched in, and so it's good to hear our town supported that as well. Like you mentioned, I know that there's a lot of folks in Troutman that has experienced similar. We still have a lot of trees down, as we mentioned, even in the dog park, but you can still see a lot of areas, and I know a lot of citizens lost power, you know, at minimum, sometimes 3-4 days. And so they've got some losses there. So hopefully we will be included in FEMA's request. And so anything that we can do to kind of help manage that, we'll be glad to support it. Any other questions for staff at this point?
Jerry mentioned something about tree and the golf cart,
The dog park.
excuse me? I heard it sound like a golf cart.
Yeah, in the dog
Oh,
park.
park,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
never mind,
Yeah,
never mind.
yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know if something had
contrary to
happened.
what some citizens want, that golf cart is ready to go.
Well, I know I see you gentlemen going down, near me, and I was hoping a tree didn't fall on one of our golf carts
Yeah.
in the process.
I had bought another one personally. I actually bought a couple. The chief bought one, but we got golf carts to go now.
I was gonna say, let's not start that rumor. We'll leave it at that.
Move on.
Yeah, yeah. Right, we'll move on. All right. Next item is a discussion on the chamber rentals.
In a nutshell, our policy dictates that our clerk is responsible for chamber rentals, and we are asking that you all allow that to be or designee. With the office space needed, I've had to move Kim to the passport office so that our police can have more space to do their day-to-day job, and they still do not have all the space they need, but they're certainly able to do the job more effectively having offices here for the personnel that's needed. That being said, it makes it difficult for Kim to come up and meet with people and or use the facility. We had a meeting to make sure that one, all of our facility use forms were similar and or matched with Emily and with Kim. And what we are proposing is that Justin's staff be allowed to handle the rentals and or reservations. The issue that we have come into, and I could not tell you the last time that the fees for the use of the facility was changed, it has long been the policy by you all's direction that if it's a nonprofit, they can use it for free. But any others have to pay a fee. Well, quite frankly, the fee was no longer covering the cost of what it would be for us to have employees here. If you all remember, one of our former council members stopped in at an activity one day to see what was going on, and the people were not nice in telling him to get out, that they had the facility rented. But there was no staff here. Once I arrived as your manager, that was one of the first topics we discussed with then council, was to make sure that if this is being used, that there be a town employee on site that's responsible. For example, Emily at that time was a one-person department and was having to come up every evening and on the weekends for pavilion rentals, but yet we was renting this part out or allowing nonprofits to use it for free. Nobody was here to supervise what was happening. So we changed that. We are asking that the fee be doubled that way, and that there be a 2-hour minimum. That way, if somebody does wish to use it, then it at least covers the town's cost as far as them doing so. It is still, unless you all change your mind, nonprofits are free. At this time, only one nonprofit is regularly using the council, and it's during normal town business hours. Even though we're not open to the public to 8, we have employees on site at 7 a.m. So this room is used on Tuesday mornings for that meeting. We have had a couple inquiries from other nonprofits, but at this point, we haven't had an agreement on what night would be consistently good for them. We have issues on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays, either planning and zoning or our town council agenda briefing, and on Thursday, of course, is town council. We did have one, I won't say Wednesdays, as an option that Board of Adjustments meets on. So there may be another nonprofit wanting to use the facility, but at this time, we are basically shifting the verbiage in the policy that allows it to be the clerk for the board or designee, and also the facility price charges change. Is there any questions I can answer or help describe that more?
What's the current fee?
25 or 20?
45.
25, and we're wanting to go to 50.
Other questions for Mr. Wyatt?
So if on this new schedule, we are at least covering our costs.
Yes, sir.
That,
Well, depending on the employee, maybe not, but it's a whole lot, well, yes. Depending on the employee, for example, if Justin stayed, maybe not, but it's a whole lot closer to covering it than not covering it.
then, you know, I want to be sure we're covering, at least covering our costs. And I think we owe that to the citizens, you know, that are paying the taxes to keep the place running, even while people are having meetings here, nonprofits are. And so at least, you know, if we need to go up a little bit more, I'm not trying to price anybody out, but I at least want to make sure that we are covering our costs, and if there are reasonable chances that someone, you know, upper management, who is obviously, you know, costs a little bit more to have here, you know, that we are covering that.
The one way I would answer that, and Justin being in that loop, myself being in that loop, depending on when it would be, we're salaried. So we could adjust our schedule if need be to accommodate it, meaning his personnel, if it's bill collection week, for example, they're working max hours in the office. There's no way, other than paying them overtime or giving them comp time, that his personnel could cover it. And depending on that day, that's either where he or I could fill in, and it wouldn't be an extra cost, and just modify schedule. So I certainly think we can manage it without it going higher at this time than the recommended $50 an hour.
Okay. And again, the requirement is just that there be someone on site, not necessarily at the building in this room, but just on site in the building.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Other questions?
Can this be done electronically? The application process?
It can be done by email, but we also removed the part in there that used to require a deposit, and just made sure that the language covered us in case there was any damage or spills or any things of that nature. But we prefer people do it in person. That way we can make sure they have read the rules and they're not just signing. I think in times past, we have had a couple incidents to where they didn't realize what they were responsible for because they signed the form and sent it in. If they're not before us, we don't know that they've read it or understand it.
Gotcha.
Other questions? Okay. Anybody opposed to the fee increase? Start there.
Now, I'm glad Jerry brought it up, because I meant to bring it up and then forgot all about it when I was going over the packet the other night. But I do know you had, or whoever, had ruled out, you know, the paying of a down deposit in case facility is somehow damaged or it's gonna cost the town to repair. Was there a reason for that? Because that kinda gets us money up front, that if there is damage done, you know, then as opposed to not getting it up front and then trying to get it out of someone through small claims court or whatever.
To try to be as direct as I can, that's my recommendation and not so much the other staff. When we were doing clearing of space and getting rid of documents, we found folders that had people's personal information in there, as well as money and or checks, that we had no idea what to do with them because they haven't fulfilled that process properly. And the application states what they are responsible for, and to me, it's futile to add an extra step of saying, give us a deposit that now becomes a nightmare on the financial side to say, okay, I'm crediting your credit card back this fee, and or holding those personal checks, which I don't want us to hold, because sometimes these rentals are 3 or 4 months out. So you just hold that check indefinitely, and quite frankly, by the banking laws, I'm not certain that that's legal. That we can take a check and just hold it and not deposit it, or if they post date it, I know it's illegal. It just takes us out of all of that. The application states they're responsible, and if there is damage, then we have avenues to pursue that damage without having the additional deposit process that obviously was not being handled properly for a long time.
Other questions on the fee? Anybody opposed to the designee language?
No, I guess I just have a question in the reservation process. Can it be set up in the same calendar as the facilities at the park are?
Yes,
That way it's more electronic and not just personal email and stuff like that?
yes.
And the dates that it absolutely can't be will be blocked out, right? There's just no option. Like Monday nights of agenda briefing because it's unsure if it will be done in time and.
I'm still working with our IT professional back here to make sure that if certain things are on the calendar that somebody else can't schedule.
Okay.
At this point, I think it can happen, to answer your question, but we are trying to address that once it's reserved on the calendar, there has to be a process for somebody else to be able to override or change that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if I can get a motion to approve the designee language in the policy as well as the fee increase.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes.
At this time, Mr. Mayor, as you've all had the addition, I'd like to introduce Paul. If you would stand up, it's just here behind the clerk is fine, or in that corner. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and then get ready to be grilled.
There you go. So, I moved to town, July of last year, and I just, wanted to, get involved in the town a little more. My background, I was in school facilities all my life. I worked for 38 years in a large school district in New York. I was director of facilities when I retired after 38 years. The school district consisted of 10 school buildings, approximately 8,200 students, and I had 130 people in my department that answered to me. I was responsible for maintenance, grounds, custodial, and as far as it related to the planning board, I would represent the school district at hearings if it was something related to the school property, if it was adjoining the school property. The other thing I did was, I was a volunteer fireman for over 35 years, so I know what it is to volunteer. I was a fire chief in 02 and 03. I also responded, as Mr. Knapp was saying earlier, to 9/11. We went down to backfill the outlying fire departments that were responding to the World Trade Center. So I was fire commissioner as well for a short time in the fire service, and I also was involved with planning as far as the town went. We have our fire district was 27 square miles. So less than half of that was hydrants. The rest of it was non-hydrant area. So anytime there was development going in, we would go and meet either when I was fire chief or fire commissioner with the town and those prospective builders to kind of lay out where we needed hydrants, if it was in a hydrant area or not, what the requirements would be for fire safety. So just, new to town, looking to try and get
questions for Mr. Rooney?
I just got a statement. I happen to know one of Paul's references, and I've worked with that gentleman for over 20 years. And if that gentleman recommends Paul, he comes highly recommended.
I just wanted to say, your background is certainly impressive, what you've done and accomplished, and thank you for your service, especially your volunteerism and so forth, and working with school systems and so forth. Getting away from that just a little bit, what is your outlook on, you've been here, you know, a little bit, you've seen the growth that has come in past, I'm gonna say 15 years perhaps, and some before that, but it's really, you know, been an onslaught, and probably will continue. And you obviously will be dealing with that, and you're gonna be hearing a lot of people that, you know, some are gonna be happy, and a lot are gonna be unhappy. And I'm sure, again, dealing with what you have, everybody dealt with hasn't been happy either. But again, getting your view on our growth and how you would handle that, hearing cases come before you for additional development, be it, well, business, of course, I think everybody wants that, but then more residential development, where we're adding more highways and general density, period. What is your outlook on that, and your feelings towards that, especially since you're gonna retire here? Hopefully this will be your last stop before whatever happens after that.
Yeah, so I am retired. I am working right now at Simpson over in Mooresville, just to stay busy, you know. But my outlook is growth is coming, okay? But I think it needs to be managed where it doesn't become a burden on the town, the county, or the state. Whether it's through the plan, the building plan, or just kind of, you know, how we can help, you know, because there's gonna be infrastructure that's gonna need to go in, and how does that burden the town, and, you know, how do we do it at the right speed, so you can budget for it, and, you know, not become such a burden on the town.
Other questions?
Are you currently involved in any civics efforts in the town or your family at all?
So, my wife, is in the Ruritan, group there, Ruritan Club, so she's very involved in that, and when I'm not working and, I can pitch in, I help and volunteer where I can. Like I said, volunteering is nothing new to me. I know the pay's not great, and, I just feel that if I can offer, you know, my knowledge and, my time, I will.
Other questions? And I did tell Mr. Rooney we would double his pay, whatever that might be.
Well, double or nothing is still.
Well, I think that was his quote. So, okay.
Anything past 9 p.m. in the evening is overtime, so you got that too.
I would just like to point out that basically another New Yorker. We got Andrew, we got Eddie,
Is that too much, or?
and his employees from New York, so they might have a New York perspective.
I just got back from New York. I enjoyed myself.
Sounds like little New Yorker on here.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to say, sir, you do not sound like a New Yorker to me. You know, I'm from North Carolina all my life, and Eddie's very distinct, you know, and Andrew, but you, sir, are not that distinct, so I can overlook that part.
Yes, I grew up 40 miles north of New York City, Hudson Valley area, West Point Military Academy. That's kind of where I grew up.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Rooney? Okay, great. Thank you for being here and putting yourself as an opportunity for this town to look to you for volunteerism.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we need to add it to Thursday's meeting as well?
Is it, it's not on there?
Say that again,
Yeah,
please?
it needs to be on Thursday.
Yes,
agenda.
correct.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next item is overview of the Thursday meeting. So,
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are typical opening of the meeting. 6, consent agenda. A, B, C, and D are all normal. E, Roman numeral 6E, and by the way, I did say something to Kim when she presented this to the department directors and myself for discussion, that this didn't look like they normally did, and we are in Granicus now. This is the first meeting that we are using Granicus, which should expedite the proficiency of her job and getting the notes and everything done more orderly. However, this is their version of how our numbers should look, and not something that staff did on purpose, just so you all know. But 6E is an annexation request, applicant Prestige Development. It's 103 acres and off of Apple Hill Road at the dead end portion. If you've got any questions, we'll be glad to ask. Roman numeral 6F is an application for annexation request, contiguous. And that other one would be contiguous as well, for Impression Homes LLC. It's only 2.44 acres. Andrew, would you give a brief overview of that one?
Yeah, this is a property off of Pinewood Street, which is basically off of Cedar Lane over by the elementary school. This is at the very end of Pinewood. If you've been on site or been near there, it's basically a gully. So this person is building one home and they want to hook up to our town utilities, which per policy they have to request annexation. So this is just one single family home.
What you say, it's an individual building a home. I thought maybe there was a company involved here or
So
something.
it's a company that's building it for an individual.
Yeah, and I almost think by talking to the guy that the gentleman that's gonna live in the house actually is the LLC himself. So I don't know if he was protecting himself by putting his business name on this annexation
Likely.
bond.
So this is that first road on the left on Cedar Lane, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions on that one?
Now, that road was left, like, unfinished, but it's not a cul-de-sac or anything, it's just kinda not even curved at the end, so
Yeah.
was there some development at one point that was,
Well, this is something that's been outlawed, but how this was developed, another property owner has what they call a spite strip.
A
So
what?
they have a 2-foot piece of
Spite strip,
land
okay.
that basically goes from the end of that roadway to this property on Pinewood. So in order for this person to access the Pinewood property, they had to get an easement through the person that has this 2-foot spite strip. And those were done a lot in the past, where big property owners were saying, nobody's ever developing land next to me because you don't have access unless you come through me. So this has been interesting. We've gotten inquiry after inquiry about developing this property with subdivision, but I mean, if you just go down the site with all the here, it's probably impossible anyway. But that spike strip has kept this from being rezoned in front of.
Familiar with the property, I tried to purchase it a couple years ago.
Is this illegal for state law or for?
It is now.
It is not per state law.
Yeah, but it was, they were all over the place. 'Cause up until the time they became illegal, they were pretty common.
Right.
and you said this is a single-family home?
The only question I have is, and I was looking at this, this part of our consent agenda, we're discussing here. And I think it was for the DeWitt Weathers Creek multifamily, you mentioned that they may have representatives here Thursday night to talk to us.
Well,
But if this is on the consent agenda,
That's only if you guys decide to take it off consent and put it on the regular agenda. If you want to discuss that further, I'll contact them and have them have a representative here. If not,
well, to be honest with you, I don't, I mean, DRB and all that, I'm unfamiliar, but I just thought, you said people are gonna be here, and we put on consent agenda, they may feel like, what's going on?
Well, I'm usually in contact with the applicants, so I always keep that clause that if it's on consent, don't worry about it, but if it gets pulled off consent, I'll let you know
Okay.
when you show up.
Just in case, yeah.
Which brings us to 6G, But go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I wasn't sure which one we were on in that comment, but,
Yeah.
hold on one moment, Mr. Now.
I did not have a question about that, but when I heard annexation, I just got hit back in the head about something that we had last month that I forgot to maybe ask about. The annexation request for that, did it go?
I haven't received a single thing.
On what?
The, Timber Lake, Timber Drive.
Yeah.
It came last week, looking to waive the annexation requirement.
Oh, yeah, we've not heard any more.
Okay, no, thanks. I apologize, but when I heard annexation, all of a sudden,
Okay.
And that one, like the one previous, just directs the clerk to do the investigation. That's not you all approving the annexation, of course. It just opens the door, so next month, all that can then come before you if they're ready.
That's on F.
Yes,
Setting the date, that's all we're doing.
correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Wyatt.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Item 6G is the facade approval for DeWitt Weathers Creek multifamily. That's the apartments that was being built by right below the charter school. They went before the design review board. Design review board, as one board member said, Councilman Hinkle was there, said he worked them over pretty good and got some things that he felt good about for the town. But they are recommending approval, and that's why it's on the consent agenda. No questions on that. We'll move to item 7. 7A, Emily has an employee that we'll recognize for Employee of the Month. 7B, Certificate of Appreciation for Bureau of Consular Affairs, Passport Service. The mayor and I both, the mayor will read the certificate and then I'll have the little note that went with it. That'll be done. Other than that, it's normal business as we do monthly.
I do just have one question, we kind of breeze through it on, the first item in the, let's see, it was the Prestige Development. How many acres have been added to that since the original planning application?
Well, they were coming with a 90-some acre parcel. They've added 10 since, which is most, to my knowledge, all that's going to be used is for sewer line, water line easements, and right-of-ways. I don't remember what they changed the name to, but basically the property in behind Tractor Supply. There was a chicken farm back there that they would needed an easement or something across. So they bought 10 acres from those families, because it's owned by one family. They bought 10 acres of that, which then allows them to sewer line, water line accesses, but it also then allows them to have a street or a drive for ingress, egress out off of Apple Hill Road into the other projects. So from the planning side of things, it absolutely fits with our land use plan of connectivity, giving people other roads in and out without having to use one road.
So that's in addition to what was presented at the public hearing? Is that right?
Yes, the 10 acres.
That's an additional.
The 10 acres
Yeah.
is, the 10 acres is an addition. And they will have to have another public hearing prior because of that addition of the 10 acres. Yes.
They'll be holding another community meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
Here, with the addition of the 10 acres, they're not asking for any additional units.
Mhm.
So the actual density of the development is going down a little bit.
Good. Good to hear.
Mhm.
When is that meeting?
6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Tomorrow.
And the only reason we're holding that is with the additional 10 acres, the requirement is to contact property owners within 500 feet. It was like 1 or 2 additional people, so it's like, we'll just, under the law, we've got to hold one more.
Did that email go out to all the council?
You know what, I don't think I sent an email, I apologize for that.
Quick question, in that same vein, Is there connectivity to Streamwood?
Yes.
There's connectivity to the Falls Cove Lake Norman side of things, so
Mhm.
I know there's a couple different names for the
Yeah,
developments.
that's
but-
why I just called the road.
Yeah.
Straight through runway.
Yep.
Okay.
There's a,
Put a toll.
You can know your
what's
toll
the
road.
road that turns, right if you come off
I'm
of
gonna talk to
this
you
proposed
later.
development, there's a road
We're
that turns to
gonna-
the left. What is the name of that? It's part of, I think it's part of Streamwood.
There's, it's Autumn Wood or something. That they put there.
That doesn't ring a bell. I've got my map at the house, but it was something, but that's part of Streamwood, is it not?
Not it.
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, right. What was the joke I missed? I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna have to shuffle the, I got a problem on this end of the table. I'll talk to you about it, cause you need to hold up your end of the bargain.
Yes, sir. I'll do whatever you need to do.
Yeah,
I've got friends in low places.
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll get it.
Those are the ones I need. Yeah, okay. Any other questions on the agenda for Thursday? Okay, all right, seeing none, is there a motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A5 to discuss acquisition of property?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, is there a second? Motion is made, receive the second, who all do we need?
Council members, clerk, attorney, and one guest.
Okay. All right. And, all right, it's, everybody else is willing to head out. Let's